It happens in Scotland as well.
Well, I don't think so.
Well, in that case, the Scottish are backwards.
Well,
I don't mean you're... sorry, I'm not insulting the Scottish nation. I'm not saying you're backwards. I'm saying is...
You just said Scotland is backwards.
No, I didn't mean... I withdraw that absolutely.
Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to the warm-up on Talk Sport. Gareth Southgate did all he had to do last night at Wembley to get the England job, but that's partly because nobody else wants it. How long will it take the FA to sort this one out? Porky will be gloating that he predicted the right result. We'll be speaking to Colin Hendry about whether Gordon Strachan should stay on. And Scots fans can take some comfort in knowing that they've now got the voice of the speaking clock. So at least they've won something this week. 08717 22 33 44. Coming up, we'll have the 1 minute moan, and it might well be about the weather. You're listening to the Two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. It is quite a busy Saturday, and we've got lots to do here on this particular show. It's time to say a very good morning to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
And a very good morning to you, Mike. And I'm not gloating, honestly. I mean, to be honest, I thought Scotland was so weak that they didn't have a chance.
Weren't they?
Well, they weren't that awful. They could have scored a couple of goals in the first half. They missed open chances. But I could never see them overcoming England, purely because the England team is always going to be made up of Premier League players who play week in, week out, and the Scottish players aren't. It's not Scotland's fault. They're going through one of the weakest sort of talent eras of their history.
Is it not?
Well, it's not, is it? Because they're a small country. They don't have many footballers. They have been beset by a financial crisis in one of their big clubs, Rangers, and so literally taken away half of the facility to produce great players.
Yeah, but I mean, Graham Souness said this the other day, didn't he? There's never been he called it a poor Scottish team. He's never been a poorest Scottish squad. I mean, there must be something more behind it than just the fact that they're unlucky not to have any decent players.
They've just run out of, I don't know, maybe their coaching was better 30 years ago when they were producing players like Graham Souness and people like that, but I don't know what it is. I mean, the Premier League used to be littered with great Scottish players. It's not anymore. No. I tell you what I think is a bit sad.
Well, even the Scottish Premier League isn't littered with great Scottish players either.
No, I totally agree.
That's the problem.
I totally agree. I mean, most players in the Scottish Premier League wouldn't get into an English Premier League team, even in the bottom half of the table, and perhaps struggle to get into a Championship team. But I tell you what I do think is a little bit sad about it all, because it's all cyclical, but seeing the Tartan Army, the fans in London yesterday, Trafalgar Square, they're still as enthusiastic as ever. They're still as colourful. Yeah. They're still as bright and breezy and enthusiastic, but they're now an army with no generals.
Well, that's right.
Who are they following?
Well, they're not following anybody. And also, they're now an army where, going all the way back to France in ¡98, where they actually had a tournament to go to.
Yes.
And they actually could cheer something on, and they had actually a chance of winning something. Now, they just have this kind of, idea that they're not going to have a great result to celebrate. They're always going to be second best, and they're not going to win anything.
But we used to work for a guy who used to have this famous expression, because he was a bit like it himself, where is my army? Yes. For I am their leader.
That's
you know what I mean? Like, like directionless and all that.
Yeah.
That's very much the way that the Tartan Army are now. They come to Trafalgar Square and they're giving it big and all that, very enthusiastic. But I don't know.
It's all a bit hollow, isn't it?
Exactly. Because,
it's all a bit hollow.
Because, they're an army without a fighting force.
Daily Record this morning is full of absolute vitriol about Gordon Strachan. They're talking about how he ran onto the pitch and grabbed a piece of the turf in 77 rather, and ran off with it, and everything was fantastic.
I saw that bloke in Trafalgar Square.
Right.
I was at that game in 77 and he laid it out like a sleeping bag in Trafalgar Square, lay on it for the night.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But that's the thing. I mean, in those days there was a point to it, but as you say now, the Tartan Army seems pretty pointless, really. It's kind of sad.
It is.
It's really rather sad.
I agree. If they were coming...
Their expectation level is now zero.
When, they've been showing, stuff on the 67 game when they declared themselves world champions after beating England at Wembley. Yeah. And, of course, you saw both the Tartan Army and the way they reacted in those days, but the actual Scottish team that walked out at Wembley, with players like Jim Baxter and Dennis Law in it, I mean, that was a real team. Right. And they don't have anything like that anymore.
Well, we're going to be talking to Colin Hendry, and we were talking about this just last week. The famous Gaza goal in Euro 96. Right, it was only Euro 96 where they still were kind of competing, weren't they?
Sure, I agree.
But anyway, there we are. So it's a bit of a downer, really.
Bit of a downer. And by the way,
they've got the speaking clock, so at least that's something. We'll talk about that a bit later.
Great story, that. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
I'm not gloating at all, to be honest. I knew they would.
It's very unlike you.
I actually.
It's just part of the new Mike Parry kind of, be nice to everybody type thing.
But I had.
Very unnerving.
I had a specific bet that England would win 4-0 and only won 3-0. So I was, really edging the team on in the second half. My fourth goal. Whereas
that was quite a bold bet, because you wouldn't expect any team that Gareth Southgate runs to score very many goals, really.
Not really. And again, Gareth Southgate after the game,
or Pep Southgate, as we like to call him.
Pep Southgate, how much he loves the job. as though, look, the FA should give it me because I love the job.
Right.
Well, lots of people love their jobs, but they're not always very good at them, if you see what I mean.
But also, nobody else wants the job, do they?
No, but I mean, people like, the heads of corporations and all that probably love the job for the prestige and the power, but if they're no good, they get booted out.
Right.
Now, what really overshadowed that game for me last night was learning, round about the same time, that Robert Vaughan has died.
Yes.
The man from Uncle.
The man from Uncle. The original man from Uncle.
Honestly, when we were a kid at school, right, I was at King's School, Chester Junior School, I was at both, your junior and senior,
Was he Napoleon Solo?
He was Napoleon Solo, but I was in the Man from Uncle Club.
What?
I was in the Man from Uncle Club.
What was that about?
Well, in some comic, like The Hornies or something, he filled in a form and, do you want to join the Man from Uncle Club?
What did you get for being in the Man from Uncle
Club? Well, you got a membership card, you are an uncle agent and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
And then I think it was all a contract.
Did you know anyone else that was in the Man from Uncle Club?
Yeah, everybody in school was. We all joined, yeah.
Right.
But the other thing is, because I'm sure this must have been one of the earliest marketing ploys I fell for, it said something like, Napoleon Solo uses a Beretta, whatever it was, gun, and you can buy one of these for £8.99.
Right.
Then, you
they just sold you a load of tat.
Exactly.
Right.
Then you urge your mum and dad to order me a gun, And
I had a Man from Uncle car, I remember. And it was
you?
quite a clever car because it had a sort of thing that you pressed on the top. And when you pressed this thing on the top, either Ilya Kuryakin or Napoleon Solo came out of either window shooting a gun.
That's brilliant.
It was a great car.
I tell you what, that was the first attempt, wasn't it, to bring peace between the East and the West? Because Napoleon Solo was an American and Ilya Kuryakin was supposed to be a Russian.
And did Uncle not stand for something?
It stood
like how Spectre stood for something.
No, it stood for the United Nations Command for Law and Enforcement.
Oh, there you go.
That's what it was called.
You see, that's brilliant. You can remember that.
Exactly, yeah. And Ilya Kuryakin, who was Scottish, by the way.
Yes.
Remember
it was
the
somebody McCallum.
David McCallum. He was Scottish, used to talk with the Russian accent. Napoleon, you were always chasing the women. Why is this, Right. And I remember once they were stranded in the desert, right? Literally, like somebody had dumped them in the middle of the Sahara, and all that kind of stuff. And they're crawling on their hands and knees, and Napoleon Solo says, geez, Ilya, what I'd give for a glass of bubbly now, a glass of champagne. And of course, Ilya Kuryakin says, well, Napoleon, I would settle kindly for a glass of water. He was colourless Russian guy, you know what I mean?
Did you not say he was also in Coronation Street, this guy, Robert Vaughan?
Robert Vaughan, what happened was, in Coronation Street, there's a cafe, and it's run by Roy, who actually plays the role of the world's most boring man to perfection.
Right.
To perfection, the most normal and boring man in the world who likes trains and all this kind of stuff. And his mother turns up, and she's the complete opposite. She's a flashy, brash, outspoken woman, always hitting Roy around the head and all this kind of stuff. And she turns up with an American boyfriend because she's been on a cruise.
So how did they convince him to go into Coronation Street?
Well, he was a lifelong actor. I mean, I remember him giving some interview once when he was in some new show saying that's all he liked doing. You know what I mean?
Well, he was in The Hustle, wasn't he?
He was in The Hustle.
Quite a well-known show.
That's right. He was in The Hustle. He's the last member of the Magnificent Seven to die, which is another great statistic.
Well?
Yeah, he was one of the seven, and so that's him gone from there. So he was in Bonanza, I'm reading here as well.
Really?
Didn't realise that.
Yeah.
But I thought he was the absolute epitome of the smooth American. And I can't remember which show it was, but he was definitely in an American political one where he would wear the overcoat, the black leather gloves, getting in and out of the black limos in Washington and all that. And he absolutely suited it down to the ground.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, he was. No, he was one
American
of those...
smoothie.
He was one of those very, very sort of... He was almost like one of those guys you thought would have been something like Heart to Heart or something like that.
Yeah, that's right,
But I don't know if he was in that or not.
No, it wasn't Heart to Heart. That was Robert... no, it was another Robert, wasn't it? Oh, no. But Stephanie Powers. Robert Wagner, Stephanie Powers, yeah. But very sad, because he came on the same day as Leonard Cohen.
Have you still got your Man from Uncle Club stuff?
No, I haven't. No, that went years ago. And by the way, I was getting a bit of stick yesterday just expressing my opinion that Leonard Cohen's music was rather boring.
Well, because you were rather ungracious about it. I think people were upset because of the fact that you announced that he was dead with a sort of a rather unfortunate tinge of glee.
No,
it was almost as though you were glad that he was dead.
No, well, that's completely untrue. I said it's very sorry to see that Leonard Cohen's
gone.
Well,
within the same breath, you said his music was rubbish.
I
said it was boring and would make people throw themselves off a bridge. I mean, you just were really very unkind to him.
No, I wasn't. What I said was, and perhaps people misinterpreted it and put the two statements together. I said, quite frankly, some of his music, perhaps it's an unfortunate expression, would have bored me to death.
I think it was a bit of an unfortunate expression.
So perhaps somebody took a
I just thought
I'll apologise for that.
There's no need to apologise.
Yeah.
It was just very... in your usual way, you have no appreciation of music, so you didn't like anything that he did, and you didn't think that he had any influence on anybody at all. Yeah. I actually spent quite a lot of yesterday listening to some Leonard Cohen music and feeling rather...
You have anything better to do?
Well, no, because I had it on in the background, because the thing about Leonard Cohen, and whenever somebody like that dies, you play their music, and I felt rather nice about it.
I spent yesterday on the coast, actually. I had to go down and sort out a bit of property business, and I have to say, it was a magnificent day.
Was it?
You know that clear blue sky over Portsmouth Harbour and the bitingly cold wind that's whipping across off the water?
Did you go to the yacht club?
I didn't see the Commodore, actually.
No.
Well, I went past the club, but I didn't have time to nip in.
Okay.
No, I had lunch with some friends in the Stilham West, right on the edge of the harbour.
Some friends?
Yes.
Who did you have lunch with?
Oh, well, I can't go into that. But, no, it was a spectacular
You had lunch on your own, didn't you?
I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that.
Anyway, look, here's one from Derek, the Toon Army Postie. I was in the Man from Uncle Club as well.
That's great.
Maybe you could write to each other and become pen pals.
Exactly. I wasn't alone.
Time to talk to Colin Hendry, former Scotland defender, former captain of Scotland, of course, as well, in a day when Scotland really were a much more of a force than they seem to have become now. Colin, very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Boys, how are we doing?
Very well indeed,
Not
Colin.
bad at all, Colin. We were just looking, actually, before we spoke to you, at the last two games competitively that England and Scotland played. One was in 2000, one was in Euro 96. You were in both of those games. And looking at the, the roll call of Scotland players, it bears no real resemblance to the players that were playing last night at Wembley.
No, I mean, I think are you guys talking about where we were at the top of the tree? We were playing at the top of the Premiership,
yes,
and that's what Gordon's got to choose from. And it's extremely difficult for him because the calibre of player, as much as we'd want them to progress and get better and get up the ladder and get to the top of the tree and stay there for a bit and then contribute a bit more for the national team, is that it's going to take a little bit of time because we don't have enough players really at the top of the tree. And I've said this for a couple of years now that this is our downfall. But it's the way the game's developed, or the Scottish game's developed, and the type of play that we have.
I mean, can you put your finger on why that's happening, Colin? Because, I come from an era when I remember Dennis Law, in one particular Scottish team. You've got Graham Souness in the middle of another Scottish team, same one that our colleague Alan Brazil played in. I mean, these are great, great players who actually shaped the fortunes of big English clubs, who took them to European finals and all this kind of stuff. I don't understand it. Just a few months ago, I read the book called Shankly's Village, and it was about Bill Shankly and the little mining village he came from. And, that produced 24 footballers between the wars. Why isn't that happening anymore?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, the days have gone, and, as I reflect back to when I was playing and we were at the top of the Premiership and Gary McAllister was winning trophies with Liverpool, John Collins was playing for Monaco in Europe and playing for Everton. The Rangers Celtic boys were high-flying. I mean, Celtic are at the minute. They're still doing well, reasonably well in the Champions League. Rangers are on the up and up again. So it's a difficult one to put your finger on because the quality that Gordon has got, and I don't know if Gordon's thinking long and hard about his the remainder of his tenure as the manager. I mean, he must be thinking long and hard about it because what he's got to choose from isn't what he would like to choose from, but it's what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, Colin. But equally,
what it is, yeah.
There's no real likelihood of it changing, though, is there? I mean, you can't really imagine that, say, for example, in the next World Cup sort of cycle in 4 years' time, that Scotland will be any better.
No, because when you want to bring younger players through as well as you've got to wait for them. That we don't have anything. I mean, young Burke, who went to Germany there in the summer from Notts Forest, he looks something for the future. But you can't just throw him in and expect him to produce right away because he's gone for a lot of money and he has got a future. He's obviously got a future in the game, a great future in the game. But you can't just utilise that player and expect him to produce right away for us, especially at international level.
That's right. You see, I think Scotland are being unfairly put under the microscope here, Colin, because this is a British thing. Remember, we've got a huge problem in England trying to develop young talent and good world-class players. It's just that we've got an awful lot more players to choose from. So, the stand's a bit higher. But the other problem that you've got in Scotland is you're being compared to the other home nation, Wales, who, of course, are doing brilliantly well because of Chris Coleman, but more particularly because they've got one of the world's great players, haven't they, in Gareth Bale?
Yeah, but that said, you have still other players that's playing in the team that are playing in the Premiership and playing at the top of the game in the Premiership.
That's right.
So Scotland just don't have that players.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
You know, I mean, there are players in the Republic of Ireland as well. They have players that are playing in the Premiership week in, week out. Maybe not in the top 6 or the top half of the table, but certainly in the Premiership. And we just do not have that players anymore.
Yeah.
And Gordon Strachan has said, after the game, look, this is not about me, I'm not thinking about myself and all of that. But you'd have to think, there's quite a bit of pressure building up in Scotland now to get him out of the job.
But what will his replacement be able to do?
The question I was going to ask Colin. Who would even be a replacement for that job? Who would you have in mind?
Well, you maybe look at, I don't know, maybe an elder statesman with a younger coach.
Yeah.
They've thought about this prior, but it's wrong for me. I wouldn't want to talk about a replacement for Gordon because Gordon is obviously going to. I played under Gordon. I played against Gordon. I'm a good friend of Gordon's, and I wouldn't want. He'll be thinking about this himself. He'll have an idea about how far he can actually go with the bunch of players, the players that he has to choose from. Whether the next game he reflects back and goes, right, I'll bring a bit of more experience. And like Charlie Adams, Charlie was quoted this last couple of weeks. Some of the things he said I agreed with, and if he is at this minute in time playing for Stoke, is a major factor playing for Stoke, and he should be looked upon as being chosen, then why not? Because he's an experienced footballer.
Sure.
And he has an effect in the Premiership at this minute in time for Stoke.
Yeah.
So that bodes well.
It does indeed. Colin, time is running out, but we can't have you on our show without asking you about the famous Gaza goal, because, of course, it was... Yeah.
That's nice of you.
Well, it's a major thing in life. Am I right in thinking that when it dropped over your head and Gaza hit it, he mishit it? He hit it with his shin and not his boot?
No, he hit it clean as a whistle.
Did he?
It's a class goal. Come on, lads.
Yeah.
He told me this story the other night, and I thought, there's no way that he hit it with his shin.
I thought he hit it with his shin. I thought he kind of mishit it, But I'm not taking it away.
No, he hit it clean as a whistle. But I've got to say, lads, it's taken one of England's finest ever footballers to do that to me.
Yeah.
I've always got my response. And I wish him well. I hope he's doing okay, Gaza. We do see bits and bobs of him, but I hope he's okay.
Yeah. Well, it's very gracious of you to say that, Colin. He had an outstanding career.
Finally, what did you make of the pink kit, by the way? Because a lot of fans are saying, that was probably the beginning of the end when it's still Scotland turning out at Wembley wearing pink.
Well, you guys will know more than I will know, but there was a reflection on partly that it could have been involved with the cancer. So there's a bit of thought in there, but then again, that might be untrue. That might not be accurate. So, but I would have suited it. I suit any colour. I'm fine.
Well, you do. The only problem is they've lost 4 of the 5 games they played in that kit. So I just think it's bad luck kit. I'd get rid of it.
But hold on a minute. If you're going to talk about that, you're going to have to talk about Spurs playing at Wembley in Europe and everything else.
That's true.
So how far do you want to go, you guys?
I know. Well, we always want to go far too far. But Colin, thank you very much indeed. Colin
Thanks,
Hendry, very sensibly talking about who on earth would want the Scotland job next. Really,
who would?
Who on earth would want the England job? That's one of the reasons Pep Southgate's going to get it, because there's nobody else in the frame.
Well, Gareth Southgate wants it badly, doesn't he? He loves the job. I love my job,
I love my job.
I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
How about this from Bob the Mackem? I was in the Man from Uncle Club and I had my triangle badge with the number 2 on it.
Hey.
And Andy from Longridge says, lads, I had a Man from Uncle badge. It was black and triangular, which pointed downwards. Well, Andy, you haven't told us what the number was. Yeah. So, you're going to have to let us know what the number was. Did you have a number on yours? Well, yours was number 1, right?
Well, I would hope it would have been number 1, but I did have a number. Yeah, definitely. I don't know what it was.
I'm not a number. I'm a free man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We are the two mics. This is the warm-up, and of course, there's loads coming up a little bit later on. We've got live football, Republic of Ireland. Danny Kelly's going to be talking to us. What's going on in Cardiff, by the way? How on earth have they managed to schedule 2 international games?
God knows.
Within 2.5 hours of each other?
So the football kicks off
5:30 kick-off.
5:30.
Right.
You sure?
Sorry, the
other way around.
Rugby
5:30
yes.
at the Millennium Stadium. We all know where that is. That will absolutely consume the high street in Cardiff.
Well, it does. I mean,
from the castle down to the Marriott Hotel.
Yeah, it consumes the whole city, basically.
It does, the whole city.
But then, inexplicably, at 7:45, there's then a football match between Wales and Serbia.
And the ground's just under the bridge, isn't it? Just under the railway bridge.
It's like a stone's throw away.
Exactly, yeah. Unbelievable.
So, I mean, presumably the rugby will will sort of empty out at around about 7:30, just as the other game's about to kick off. It doesn't make any sense to me.
For years and years and years, Everton and Liverpool were never allowed to play at home in the same weekend, let alone the same day.
Well, I think that goes for Manchester as well, doesn't it?
It does. It goes for Manchester, and I think it goes for Arsenal and Spurs. But quite astonishing, really. But I tell you what I did see today. On my way here, and you kept moaning about the rain, you know.
The rain was awful.
I got past the rain.
How did you get past the rain?
Do you know how I got past the rain?
How?
And I wish people were as practical as me. I was shopping, actually, just after 6 this morning, yeah.
What for?
For shopping stuff.
What do you go shopping for at 6 o'clock in the morning?
The supermarkets open. Some supermarkets open at 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. on a Saturday, yeah. And after I'd fed the ducks and everything, you know, I went in.
Well, that must have been a bit wet, mustn't it?
It was wet, that was the point, but at least I had a coat on, you know. But then, of course, the rain went off, and I went to this supermarket. I came out, it was pouring down with rain.
Right, what did you buy?
Oh, just like bacon and stuff.
Supplies?
You know. Yeah, supplies.
Bacon.
Supplies, yeah, and all that kind of
bacon.
stuff. Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Oh, so did you have a bacon sarnie then?
Yes, I did, actually, yes, yeah.
Did you use the sausage dripping with it, or did you have butter with it?
No, usually I let the bacon cook in its own fat, actually.
Okay.
You don't actually need it. But anyway, the point of my story is, you see, the reason I call myself smarter than the average bear is because I'm so practical.
Is that right?
I come out the front of this supermarket, it's absolutely pouring down with rain, and I didn't have any head gear on, and I didn't want to get pneumonia because only 1/3 of my heart works, and it would it would knacker me. So I went back in and I bought another carrier bag.
Right.
And the ladies...
For 5p?
Yes, exactly, because they don't give them away anymore.
No.
So I said to the lady, I said, hello, I said, oh, you've paid for your goods? I said, no, I want another carrier bag, please. She said, oh, I'm sorry, they cost 5p. I said, yes, I know. I'll buy one off you. She said, have you got anything to put in it? I said, no, I just want the carrier bag.
Well, why would they bother? I mean, if you're buying a bag, surely they would just sell it to you, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they did. So she did. So then I came out to the front, all these people cowering under the awning in front of the shop.
Yeah.
Guess what I did?
What did you do?
I put the plastic carrier bag over my head.
Right.
And used it as a hat.
Uh-huh.
I shaped it like a bathing hat.
Did
you
you
know
actually
what I mean?
sort of tie it on then?
No, I didn't tie it on. I did actually, because I put it round the front of my head.
It would come all the way down.
No, and I did. I tied it and not round the back.
Yeah.
And I got home with my hair
that
dry.
That must have looked a bit weird.
Well, it might have looked a bit weird, but I don't care. Smarter than the average bear, mate. Didn't get my hair wet. I'd been in and out the shower that morning already.
You should have taken a picture of it.
Well, what for?
You should have done, so that we could have seen what it looked like.
Well, it doesn't look like anything.
Some kind of fashion.
It doesn't look like anything except protective headgear. Now, later on, as I'm making my way to the TalkSport studios, right, and again, it's raining.
And presumably you got soaked on the way to the train station and soaked from the train station to here.
Well, it was raining, but I passed a licensed hostelry, and I couldn't believe it because people were pouring in England rugby shirts.
Yeah.
And this was at about 9:15.
Yeah, I don't know why you're so surprised by that. I mean, there are any number of people that go to the pub on a Saturday at 9 o'clock, as you well know, because you're one of them.
Well, no, but this is the point is, I thought, golly, there's a lot of people there. So just really out of curiosity and the fact that I have the...
You sure it wasn't because you were in there saying, why are there so many people in here? Normally it's quite quiet.
Hang on, I have the natural instincts of an investigative journalist.
Really?
I thought I'd go in and have a look and see what was going on.
Yes.
I thought they couldn't only be serving breakfast, you know what I mean?
Right.
Anyway, I go in and there's one guy there, he's got 4 pints lined up. This is at 9:15, right?
Well, it's a big rugby day for people who go to rugby. They like to drink beer from the very get-go.
But I'm thinking to myself then, I suppose the kick-off must be sort of 11:30, 11:45, so that must be an early kick-off.
Right.
I didn't know rugby did that. So anyway, I had a look then up at the schedule on the board. The kick-off is 2:30.
Yeah.
And these guys were going to be in there. They weren't going to Twickenham.
Well, they won't get to Twickenham until about midday, will they?
They weren't even going to Twickenham.
Are you sure?
I said I had a word with one or two of them. Yeah. I said, no, watching it here. So they were going to be solidly drinking.
5.5 hours later.
5.5 hours until the kick-off.
It's quite a long day, isn't it?
I mean, they already had 4 pints lined up. I mean, that is stamina of the highest order, isn't it?
Well, you would hope it's stamina. I mean, it might be considered to be slightly unwise, as people say, you're supposed to drink in moderation.
You and I can admit...
if he's got 4 pints at 9 o'clock in the morning, how many pints is he going to drink by the time we get to the 2:30?
Well, I saw Georgie, and she's going with some friends, but she said that, some of the people she's going to meet, she is aware they drink up to 20 pints.
Really?
On a rugby day. Yeah.
I don't think I could drink 20 pints.
Well, I think rugby fans are more sort of beer drinkers than wine drinkers.
Yeah.
But you and I can admit that we once set off to Cheltenham, didn't we, at about 9 o'clock?
Well, I mean, we once set off to Cheltenham after working through the night.
That's right.
And we didn't really stop, did we?
So we set off about 7:30, 8 o'clock, actually.
Yeah, we set off, we got to Paddington around 7 in the morning.
And by 8 o'clock, we were on the champagne, weren't we?
That's true.
And so we can admit
the morning is made for champagne. I mean, that's when you're supposed to drink
agree.
champagne. You're not really supposed to drink champagne after midday, to be honest.
I totally agree. Now, the point of that is that we were only going to watch the races. We were in a box in a secure environment.
We'd been invited.
We'd been invited.
Yeah.
And
so we reluctantly agreed.
Yeah, I always allow myself to acquire double vision before the start of the racing.
Double vision?
Well, if you see what I mean,
What do you mean, as a result of bladderation?
Bladderation kicks in at race meetings.
Certainly there is a record of you, an audio record, I'd have to say, of you doing the Fools panel on Hawksby and Jacobs.
Yes.
In which it has to be said, you don't sound altogether all there.
Well, that can't be true.
Well,
that can't be true.
We can find it and play it out.
I would have been disciplined by the company had anything like that happened, because we don't tolerate that sort of behaviour on Talk Sport.
I think the reason it made clips of the week was because it was so funny. It wasn't, there was no need to discipline you, but certainly you did sound as if you weren't completely concentrating on the racing.
Well, I'm not going to comment on that because that is, that's.
Well, the most ridiculous thing about one of those trips to Cheltenham was that we went down there, champagne all the way, drank, certainly in my case, champagne while I was there for several hours.
Yes.
Then more champagne on the way back on the train.
Yeah.
And then we got back to Paddington.
That's right,
and decided, it's only about 8 o'clock.
That's
we better go to the bar next door and have a few more drinks.
That's right, we did.
I think we were out about 11 o'clock.
We were, indeed. And we didn't sleep all that day.
No.
And then I went home, and I couldn't sleep when I got home, and I cracked a couple of bottles when I got home.
It's shocking, really.
It's called stamina.
So why are you having to go at some poor guy with 4 pints in a pub at 9 o'clock in the morning?
What I'm saying is, the reason that we had, quite a bit to drink, and it was very good stuff, we were moving around. So, we had to get down to Paddington. We were on the train, off the train, into the pub in Cheltenham, remember, for a couple of pints.
Yeah.
Then down to the track, then a couple of sherbets
into the box.
In the box we were in, and then somebody else invited us into that box, and then somebody invited us into that marquee and that tent. So moving around. But these guys are literally going to be standing there talking to each other for the next 5 hours, literally pouring pints. And, and it will evolve into gallons.
It will.
Gallons of beer and Guinness, by the way, loads of Guinness going on down their throats, and I find it extraordinary.
Really? I don't know why. Daniel says this, fried bacon for breakfast, is that wise for a man with only 1/3 of his heart working?
Well, I cut all the fat off. I won't
You said you used the fat to fry it in.
Yeah, but then I cut it off. But
when did you cut it off? What, after you've used it?
Yes, after.
What, so after you've used the fat to fry the bacon in, you cut it off?
Yeah, when I get the bacon out of the pan, I then put it onto my board.
What board?
Well, it's my special board, my cutting board.
A cutting board, you mean
and I cut all the fat off.
Like a chopping board?
For instance, if I stay at my sister's down in Bournemouth, she has to spend a long time cutting every bit of fat off bacon before I agree to have a bacon sandwich.
Really?
Yeah, because I can't eat the fat. It's dangerous.
Well, you've already cooked it, though.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, the actual rind stuff, the white stuff, I cut all that out of bacon.
Really?
Every bit of bacon I've ever eaten is pink. There is no white in my bacon, ever.
Okay.
Never.
Well, I'm very delighted to hear
exactly.
that. Excellent. We'll have some more healthy eating tips from Porky coming up very, very shortly. Now, do you know what this music's for?
Yes.
What's it for?
It's for the 1 minute moan.
It is for the 1 minute moan. You're absolutely right. I thought it sounded familiar.
But you see, I think that's rather an unfortunately named chapter of the show. Because,
why?
Well, I don't moan.
You're always moaning.
No. What I do is I tell you something which is worth knowing. Now,
well, so far your moans have been generally criticised because they're all about things that affect you, as opposed to things that affect the general populace.
Well, I like to look after the world.
Because you're very self-centred.
Okay. So anyway, it's called the 1 minute moan.
It is. Yeah.
Do you want to go first, or am I going to go first?
Well, I don't mind. I mean, I think you went first last week, so I don't mind going first this week.
Let's get on with it.
For people who may not know precisely what it's about, we perhaps explain. It's basically where we get 1 minute to moan about something that's been bothering us all week.
Indeed.
Normally what happens is I talk about something which is generally of concern to the nation,
yes,
or possibly the world. Parry talks about something which is just of concern to him.
Excuse me, that's Mr. Parry to you.
Mr. Parry.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Parry talks
you.
about something which is only of concern to him because he is the most selfish man on planet Earth. So, if you'd like to start the clock.
Yes, the clock. Can you start it now, please?
I'd like to complain about the American election, not because of the fact that the person who was elected shouldn't have been elected, or not because the person who was elected is a horrible, racist, misogynist, nasty person, but because the fact is that following the Brexit scenario, right, this guy gets elected, his name is Donald J. Trump, he has a lot in common with you, funnily enough, exaggerates a lot,
like what?
tells a lot of lies, pretends he's a bigger, richer man than he actually is. This guy has been elected fair and square as the, the chief, the head of the free world, really.
Commander-in-Chief.
Commander-in-Chief, exactly right. And instead of actually accepting that, all the people who said that they didn't want him to be the president because they voted for the other guy, i.e. Hillary Clinton, have been out on the streets burning things, chucking things, breaking windows, saying that he's not their president. I mean, at what point do they not get the idea that democracy is about voting for one thing or voting for another thing? And sometimes you lose. And if you lose, you have to put up with it and shut up.
Well,
that's it.
That's it. But it's still ticking.
I don't know why it's still ticking. He told me it was going to stop.
Well, no. There you go. There you go. OK. Short and to the point, then, we'll say. OK?
Thank you.
But very much to the point.
Yes.
And, yes, I go in agreement with you. Right, you better start that clock ticking for me. Here we go. Right, I want to complain about the airline industry, please. During the course of reading my journals this week, I've come across a fact which worries me greatly.
Yes.
I have decided after a long and successful career that whenever I fly again, I'm only going to fly business or first class. I don't want to fly in steerage or economy anymore. However, I
don't think you ever did.
To my extreme annoyance, I've found out that if you fly first or business, you've got a greater chance of being killed in an airline crash because planes usually crash from the front.
It's the wrong end of the plane.
It's the wrong end of the plane.
Have you just worked this out?
I've just worked this out. More people get killed in first class and business class in plane crashes than they do at the back.
Yeah.
In fact, it's something like about 48% more people are killed in the front of the plane than the back of the plane.
You're not going to say you want to be put in the back, are you?
I want them to move first class and business class to the back of the plane. If I'm paying all that money, right, to have the best seat on the plane, I want it to be the safest seat. It's not at the moment. The best seat is the unsafest seat. Correct it right now, otherwise I'm not flying.
Is it a lot noisier at the back, though?
Well, I don't care. I want it moved to the back.
That is the most selfish thing I've ever heard you say. And considering the number of selfish things I've heard you say, that is saying something.
I don't think it's selfish to say...
You actually want people to die for you because you're going in first class.
I'm not saying that.
That's what you're saying.
No, don't be ridiculous.
You would like people to sort of sacrifice themselves...
Rubbish.
On the altar of your ego.
No, rubbish.
That's shocking.
Well, hang on. If I'm paying twice or three times for my seat what somebody in economy pays, then I deserve a safer seat.
I'm sorry. I mean, I don't wish to accuse you of being arguing about something that's in bad taste, but I mean, if the plane is actually going to crash, there's a pretty good chance that everybody's going to die. Well, so where you're sitting really doesn't matter.
No, but more people at the back of the plane survive than at the front of the plane.
Well, it depends, actually.
Sorry?
It does depend.
No. The planes usually crash nose first. They don't usually...
Not always.
The back of the plane doesn't normally hit the ground first. It's normally the front of the plane. So if a plane flies into a mountain, but it's not a very high mountain, then you've got a better chance of surviving.
Do you take the same view of trains?
I'm not going to talk about that because of the Croydon incident. It'd be bad taste, wouldn't it, to talk about that?
Well, that wasn't a train.
So, it was a tram, so it's the same sort of thing. So
you think it's bad taste to talk about trains and not sitting at the front, but it's good taste to talk about planes?
No, I'm talking about a hypothetical situation. Sadly, the train Croydon thing happened.
Well, that wasn't a train.
Anyway, so there's a tram, and it goes on railway lines, if you see what I mean, or tram lines. Tram lines, yeah.
Hey, listen, I'll tell you what.
Yes.
Here's another question I've got for you, which is football related. Have you seen that Ian Holloway's got a new job?
In charge of?
Queen's Park Rangers.
Where he's been before,
yes.
and been successful before.
Yeah.
I think it's a good appointment. He's done a great job wherever he's gone. What? Hey, he has.
What?
He's done a great job wherever he's gone.
What do you mean he's done a great job
wherever he's gone? He got Blackpool into the Premiership, didn't he?
Well,
for the first time ever.
But then after that, he hasn't really had a great amount of success, has he?
Well, no, but I mean, just getting a team into the Premiership by winning that historic playoff at Wembley was pretty sensational. And what I would say is...
You're a big supporter of Mr. Holloway's, are you?
Well, to an extent. But Mr. Holloway's life over the last sort of couple of years, 2-3 years, has been very much media-oriented, hasn't it? And that sort of thing. And
he's been on TalkSport quite a bit, hasn't he?
He's been on TalkSport quite a bit. And that can work, as our mate Neil has proven, because he's been a regular contributor. Neil Warnock, regular contributor to...
Well, Neil Warnock's been very successful very recently. I mean, he kept Rotherham up, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Now he's gone to Cardiff.
So you can dip in and out of the working for the media to keep your eye in and then going back to management. But I'm not sure if you can dip in and out out with the length of time that Mr. Holloway's been out.
Well, you're suggesting it might not work this time around.
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, QPR are a desperate club because they simply can't find a remedy to their, their malaise.
What's happened to their sort of massive plan to move this, to move the stadium and to build this massive new complex?
I didn't know they had one.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, we talked about it a couple of years ago.
Really?
Yeah, they had.
Well, that's a couple of years ago. These plans come and go.
But no, they had this big plan to build a big sort of like Spurs are doing, basically, to build this whole big thing near White City.
You sure about this?
Yes, of course I'm sure about it.
Oh, okay.
It was all over the papers.
Oh, okay. Well,
you've forgotten about it, clearly.
No, I'm.
It was all part of the making QPR into a big league sort of Premier League club.
I think that was under.
Then they got relegated.
Yes, exactly. I think that was under the control of that sort of motor racing.
The owner.
The Formula One lot,
Yeah, the owner, yeah.
Who was his name?
Fernandez, right?
Fernandez, that's right. Oh, yeah. Well, he still owns it. Is he the airline chap?
Yeah, that's right.
Air Asia.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but no, the previous owner.
Have you been living in a cave or something for the last 2 years?
No, the previous owner was Flavio Briatore, who was the Playboy.
I'm not talking about him.
No, but they were the guys who announced the plan, I think, to move to the new stadium.
No, I'm not sure. No, I think it was Tony Fernandez.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm not sure.
I've got some more news for you as well.
Oh, yeah, go on.
Gus Poyet.
Yes.
Remember him?
Yes, of course.
He's just been fired.
Hey?
He's just been fired.
From
the Deportivo. From Real Betis.
Oh, Real Betis. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
He's only been there 4 months.
Yeah, well, they have up and down careers, these people, don't they? Talking about people.
Just trying to keep you up with the managerial movements around the world.
It's very kind of you. I like to know about these things. Talking about people whose jobs they've given up on, or they're not going to do them again. I see David Gilmour, the legendary guitarist for Pink Floyd, has said at 70 that's enough. He's quitting.
Well, that's probably not a bad idea, is it?
No, but I mean...
You're always moaning about rock stars being too old.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they keep going on and on and on. The Rolling Stones have not decided to retire, and they're in their mid... In fact, one of them's nearly 80.
Yeah.
I think Charlie Watts is nearly 80.
It's not compulsory, is it?
Well, yeah, but I think it's a very good age to retire.
Although is Charlie Watts not retired, actually? I don't think he plays with them anymore.
No, he does. Very much so. The guy you're thinking about is the man who slept with 10,000 women, Bill Wyman.
No, I'm not confusing Bill Wyman.
Maybe he pulled himself out sleeping with women and then couldn't play the guitar any longer when he got to 70.
He couldn't stand up, I think is the problem. It's not. No, I think Charlie Watts does, I mean, he might do studio stuff with him, but I don't think he actually goes on tour with them.
No, he does.
I think they use a different drummer.
No, I don't think
Are you sure?
I don't think that's the case at all. All I'm saying is, I think David Gilmour's right to do this. I mean, he's written some of the greatest pop songs, hasn't he, of the second half of the 20th century. So now is the good time to just say, yeah, thanks a lot, I'm on my way. Because I think some of them are in danger of making themselves look pretty damn stupid wobbling around on stage post-75, don't you?
Well, possibly, but it depends
Except for
what
Keith
they
Richards,
do.
who's the living dead.
Well, yeah, but it depends what they do. I mean, Pink Floyd don't do a lot of jumping around. I mean, a lot of their music is very slow and sort of ponderous, so they can stand there or sit there and just perform it. It's not like they're jumping up and down like Mick Jagger. You'll have to say it does look a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it looks ridiculous these days. But anyway, what can you say? He's been very successful all his life and still should be. And I see, by the way, that old Robbie Williams has been named the most successful British solo act in chart history.
Really?
Yeah, apparently his latest album has gone to number one.
That can't be right. Robbie Williams can't be. What about Elton John?
Well, that's what I thought.
How can he be more successful than Elton John?
Apparently his latest LP, which is called The Heavy Entertainment Show, it's his 12th album to reach number one.
Right.
And that's pushed him past David Bowie.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm amazed at that.
Well, I'm amazed because I've never heard a Robbie Williams record, which I liked.
Really?
No, never.
Well, you never heard of a Leonard Cohen song you liked either.
No, I didn't. No, that's true.
Basically, you only like Mungo Jerry and Abbott, don't you?
That's not quite just.
You compared Leonard Cohen to Mungo Jerry.
I said that he
said it was more cheerful.
I thought Mungo Jerry was much more cheerful. You ask anybody who's feeling a bit glum, would you like to listen to a Mungo Jerry record in the summertime when the weather is fine? I'm going to get right down, da 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 da, and all that. Or listen to Leonard Cohen telling you that Hallelujah is your fate.
Yeah, exactly. How about this from Dave? He says, FIFA decided the times and dates of all the European qualifiers in advance of the draw. So, unfortunate coincidence. Well, it's all very well, but I mean, surely the rugby people and the football people could have got together and worked out not to put the games on in the same city at the same time, practically.
And by the way, the police are going to have a huge job in Cardiff today, right?
They're going to be working double shifts.
And you know the Welsh police? The Welsh police were the first of all the British forces to do away.
What police is in Wales?
Hey?
Do you know what they're called?
They're called
It's Headloo, isn't it?
Headloo Cymru.
Cymru.
Headloo Cymru, that's the Welsh police. Yeah. They were the first force in Britain to get rid of the traditional policeman's helmet, the PC Bobby's helmet, and replace it with those baseball caps.
Really?
Yeah, which I think look ridiculous.
No, I don't think that's right.
Buddy, you're a boy, make a big
We are the two mics. This is the warm-up, and of course, this is Talk Sport. Coming up, you're going to have the Republic of Ireland game very, very shortly. We're going to talk to Danny Kelly. That song, by the way, has become a kind of sporting anthem, hasn't it?
It certainly has.
I mean, you hear it in football stadiums and other stadiums around the world.
That one and the other one the Queen wrote, We Are the Champions,
We Are the Champions,
when there's a victory.
They don't play that much at Everton, do they?
I'm not going to ignore that question. Now, listen, the reason we're playing that, right, that was written by Brian May.
Yes.
Now, Queen had two great songwriters. Obviously had Freddie Mercury, the late great Freddie Mercury. He wrote a lot of their songs. And Brian May, who not only wrote songs, but the way he introduced that guitar so subtly into that anthem was just brilliant, wasn't it? But it's one of the loudest introductions to any popular record over the last 30 years.
I suppose it would be,
as we'd all agree, because there's about 8 sets of drums there, right? So, ironically, it's great to read that Mr. May, and I think he's married to Anthea Dobson, isn't he? The actress.
Anita Dobson.
Anita Dobson,
yes.
Sorry, Anita Dobson.
I don't know who Anthea Dobson is.
No, Anita Dobson.
Her sister, maybe.
But he's now gone to war with his local council. He lives in a very nice part of...
Isn't he always at war? Didn't he have a war with one of his neighbours as well?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, they're always having wars, these pop stars, aren't they? About, the neighbour next door digging a cellar and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, no, it's all about the amount of noise that the leaf blowers are making in his road.
This is one of your pet hates, right?
Well, it is my pet hate. I don't know why these leaf blowers come out, because what they do is they just blow the leaves somewhere else.
Exactly.
They don't collect them up and take them away.
If it's a particularly windy day,
yeah,
there's not much point, because they blow them into a pile and then the pile just blows away.
But I love seeing leaves blowing around, don't you? That's what autumn's all about. I don't know why they want to collect the leaves, and I don't know why they want to blow them around.
Well, one of the reasons they do it is because they clog up the drains. I mean, when I was driving in today, right, there were so many massive, great puddles. Thank goodness I had this 4x4 to drive through them all, because there were
you've got a 4x4 now, have you?
I have, yeah.
Oh, yeah, what make
I haven't mentioned it's a Jaguar, actually.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But thanks for asking.
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't like to bore our
I know that you're now unbelievably sort of crestfallen because your sort of crappy old car is now a second division type thing. But I mean, there's loads and loads, and the reason there's loads of puddles on the roads is because the leaves are clogging up the drains.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, anyway, look what Mr. May says, and by the way,
Mr. May,
Brian May, we've had him in this studio. He's a great campaigner for things like badgers and sort of thing. He's also qualified now because he took up the course again in what was it?
Astrophysics.
Astrophysics. That's right. So he's a brilliant guy. But anyway, this is what he says. He's writing on his blog, and he says, I was woken up by a horrible noise of leaf blowers back in the insanity that is London. So obviously he's been away on tour or something. So he says, I went out to see an army of 6 men, right, in orange jackets disturbing the peace with the awful noise of the blowers, dust and leaves being blown into my garden and petrol fumes. There used to be one man, Billy, who swept up who swept up the leaves in our road.
There used to be there was a guy with 2 planks, wasn't there, literally, and he used to use the 2 planks of wood to sort of collect the leaves and put them together. Because I remember as a child, when I was growing up in North London, they used to have these big piles of leaves sort of about, I don't know, 5 metres apart. Yeah. And one of the things that you would do as a kid was to go through and kick them all back into the street again.
Exactly.
Shockingly antisocial behaviour.
I hate the leaf blowers. The leaf blowers should be leaf suckers if they want to get rid of them. Suck them in and mince them up into dust and put them in the back of a lorry.
Well, I think have they not got one of those kind of big street cleaning type things that does that?
I've no idea. But anyway, I'm with Brian May on this, and if you're listening, Mr. May, I'm a big supporter of this because you're right. He says Billy, the one man, did a truly wonderful job. No noise, no fuss. You're absolutely right. He had one of these board type things, always a smile and a hello, and the road was spotless after he'd been down it. Not a single leaf would you see. But he says, but the Kensington and Chelsea Borough Council sacked Billy for reasons unknown. This is now a campaign to bring back Billy.
Well, you think Billy was in some way, sort of misusing his equipment?
I've no idea. He said he appealed for wrongful dismissal, but it's amazing. This is Brian May, one of the world's most famous musicians and guitarists, campaigning
for Billy.
Bring back Billy the leaf collector.
Right.
But he was one man against a bureaucratic team of bullies, and he didn't stand a chance. Today, we have 6 men in a lorry, and they are creating a horrible intrusion into our lives. And in addition, the job is disgracefully badly done.
But this is where we are now. You never see one person. It's like the bins now. I mean, there's an army of people that empty bins in my street, right? And practically every day they're coming up and down because they've got the blue bin to do. Yeah. They've got a brown bin.
They have.
They've got a green bin. Yeah. And the amount of noise they make pulling these bins in and out of houses.
Do you know,
unbelievable.
What time do they start in your neighbourhood?
Well, they seem to sort of... it's not particularly early. Yeah. It's generally during the sort of mid-morning time. But, I mean, there's thousands of them.
Can I tell you, in Stockbroker Belt, right, we leave here at 4, right, if we're doing a late show.
Yeah.
And if we're not doing a late show, we're doing a daytime show, the same thing happens. By 5:15, because I get my car back into my underground car park about sort of 4:30, 20 to 5.
Right.
I go upstairs, when I'm ruminating.
Do you creep upstairs? You try not to wake anybody?
Well, I don't wake anybody, I'm not like that. And by 5:15, the guy who's the sort of chief scout for the bin lorry is up the road, and he's pulling the wheelie bins to the edge of the road.
Yeah, and that makes a hell of a racket.
Not only that, he goes into the bin stores, blocks of flats like I live in, who've got big industrial bins.
Yeah, the big
he's pulling them out,
metal ones,
and they make a hell of a noise.
Yeah.
But in a way, I admire them because it's very efficient. He gets them all outlined along the road, and do you know what he does? He's very good. He will sometimes get a couple of the little plastic wheelie bins and pick them up and tip them into the bigger bins if they're not full.
Really?
Yeah.
See, he's probably not supposed to do that.
Well, he's
There's
probably not.
Some regulation against that.
I'm quite impressed with the way they do it. But can you imagine if you're one of these guys in orange jackets, one of 6, team of 6, blowing the leaves around, and all of a sudden a bloke comes up and says, "Excuse me, can you switch that off? It's bad for the environment." Because that's what Brian May says it does. He says...
what do you think they do when it's not autumn, by the way, these 6 guys?
I've no idea.
Because they can't be doing that all year round, can they?
Maybe they're snow clearing in the winter.
Well, we don't have any snow.
And maybe they're trying to, preserve water in the summer or something like that. But
preserve water?
He said, Brian May has said to them, it's a health hazard, all these petrol fumes going around all over the place, He said, it's nonsensical exercise, it doesn't do anything, leaves everywhere. And it's just not good. So he's having a go. Can you imagine Brian May coming up to you, if you're a council worker, and being asked, could you please stop doing that? It's not good for the environment, and actually you're not very good at your job, because you're not getting rid of the leaves, you're just blowing them around.
Why would you take any more notice of Brian May than anybody else?
Because Brian May is one of life's winners. He's an achiever. He's got a fortune of about £100 million.
So what?
And he lives in a huge
house. Pays
house.
The same council tax as the person living next door.
He lives in a huge house in Kensington, Chelsea.
You like him because he's rich?
Well, I like him because he's a winner and he's a success. You don't know about winning and success. Until I got here, mate, you were a loser.
Until you
and
got
I transformed you. You know what I mean?
Really?
And
How much time are you going to spend hanging around before you disappear?
You need to get your life into perspective, mate.
Really?
Because the way you're going, you're going to turn into a loser again.
Is that right?
Okay? I have to keep a very close eye on you.
Thank you very much indeed. Scott says this: why on earth is the news lady laughing throughout the bulletins today? It's because of Porky's shirt. It's absolutely ridiculous. You've never seen anything like it.
Mr. Mate ends up by saying...
Sorry, I didn't realise you were still going.
It's a very, very loud noise. It's unnecessary. If these people can't stand the sight of a leaf, then it's not a leaf blower they need. It's a psychiatrist.
This one from...
I think it's brilliant.
From Kim in Leafy Kings Lynn says, Billy was sacked as he only worked 2 months of the year. Which is possibly true.
What's that?
Billy was sacked because he only worked 2 months of the year.
Perhaps he only did leave. Perhaps he didn't do anything else.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what? The council referred to Mr. May as...
What?
Dr. May.
Well, he is a doctor,
He is a doctor. He got a doctor of philosophy.
Doctor of astrophysics. No.
Yeah.
A doctor of astrophysics. You've seen the time, by the way.
And they're saying Dr. May paints a very bleak picture of life in this area, which we're not sure everyone recognises.
Yeah, all right. Have you finished?
I think that's brilliant. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, great. That was the Leaf update from Mr. Parry. Now, there's not many happy people in Scotland this morning, mostly because of the football result from last night, and although you were saying they didn't play that badly, I mean, it's a pretty sort of shambolic situation now, Scottish football.
Oh, it is, yeah.
And I mean, whether Gordon Strachan hangs around or not, it doesn't look like they well qualified, does it? I mean, they may not qualify.
They're way down the table already. And
they've only had one win, I think, out of 4, right?
Exactly. There's at least 2 better teams than them in the group, isn't there? That goes without saying.
But as we were saying at the top of the show, there is one sort of sparkling a thing for the Scots to be happy about, right?
And what is that?
And that is that the speaking clock, for the first time, now has a Scottish voice. It's a man from Dundee, a retired civil servant, former radio presenter, actually, although I can't say I've ever heard his show.
No.
A man called Alan Steadman, aged 69, is the first non-English voice chosen for the speaking clock. Now, when I read this story, I couldn't believe that we still had a speaking clock.
I could not.
I mean, can you remember the last time you rang the speaking clock?
I think I remember my mum or dad ringing it once.
I used to ring it when I was a kid, yeah.
Did you?
Yeah,
I did, just to listen to what it was like.
Well, just to talk to somebody.
Is that the one on the bleep? It'll be 12:41 and 30 seconds.
At the third stroke,
At the third stroke, that's right.
I don't even know if they still say that. I mean, I'm so old.
Well, why don't we give it a call now?
Dialing TIM.
You're telling me it's now a Scotsman who's reading it out.
And it's never been a Scot. It's always been an English voice. Sometimes it's been a woman, sometimes it's been a man.
Yeah.
But should we try and dial it?
Yeah, sounds right.
Do you think we should? I mean, I'd like to say that there's people paying attention behind the glass there, but apparently they're all talking to each other, so they're not.
Didn't you tell me something?
Are we going to hear it?
I think we're going to hear it.
Yeah, let's try and dial it.
Yeah. We are dialing it. Listen, didn't you tell me some incredible statistic about the...
Stroke, the time from BT will be 12:22 and 40 seconds.
12:22.
Yeah, let's listen. Wait a minute.
At the third stroke, the time from BT will be 12:22 and 50 seconds.
12:22 and 50 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, that's enough of that. Thank you very much indeed.
Third
That's that sounds like the
third stroke.
Yeah, the third stroke. That
I can't
sounds
believe
like
they still say that.
I can't
What's
believe.
the third stroke all about?
I've no idea. That sounds like the guy who used to read out the football results. He died, didn't he?
4-5, East 5-4.
Yeah.
That one.
Hamilton Academicals 3, East Lothian.
Actually, speaking of that,
5.
Did he not retire recently? The guy that used to do the football results.
No, he
wasn't
died, didn't he?
No, not the Scottish guy, but he was an English guy.
Oh, yeah.
He used to read out the final score
with the double-barreled surname.
Yeah,
I think he did.
Yeah.
You told me an incredible statistic about the speaking clock.
Yeah, apparently. Well, this is what I said. I mean, one, I didn't realise the speaking clock still existed.
Yeah.
But then two, I thought, well, who would even bother ringing it? Because everyone's now got a phone. If you haven't got a watch or you haven't got a clock, I mean, everyone's got a timepiece of some kind.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
12 million people a year.
What?
Still call the speaking clock.
What?
That's incredible, isn't it?
That must be 12 people who dial it 1 million times. There can't be more than 12 people who need the speaking clock in this country in this day and age.
Well, it could be like the old Heathrow Airport complaints line, you know, how it was only about 12 people who made all the complaints. There's hundreds of thousands of complaints about the noise.
Apparently it's 10. Apparently it was 10 people who made 90% of the complaints, and there was thousands of complaints a year.
Maybe it's 12 people who make 1 million calls each.
Maybe it is.
I mean, one of the things that I think it used to be useful was if you're a bit lonely and you don't have anyone to talk to, you could always ring the speaking clock and hear the voice.
Well, you'd be the world's biggest sado then, wouldn't you?
Well, you might just not have any friends.
I suppose what you could do is, I mean, we're quite used to wearing headphones. I suppose people wear headphones now to listen to their music and all that. Imagine if somebody was sitting at home one night thinking, I think I'll just put the speaking clock on.
Alan from Dundee.
Alan from Dundee. And you sit there for 5 minutes and listen to this guy telling you what the time is.
Yeah.
I suppose if you're lonely and you've got nothing better to do, it could be... but, of course, the world is changing.
Do you know when it was launched?
1935.
36.
36.
Yeah, good.
That's not bad, is it?
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
We've just given them a free advert as well, so they should be quite happy.
Yeah, well, now listen, I'll tell you something else which has come to my attention, and of course this
He won a competition, by the way, to become the voice of the speaking. I'm surprised you didn't enter it.
Well,
it's the kind of thing you would want to do, to be kind of immortalised.
Hang on, there was a discussion going on about that, and Victoria, who is our newsreader, right?
Yes.
Is that right, Victoria?
That is Victoria's name,
Victoria,
yes. Amazing you remember her name. You don't remember anybody else's.
Of course I do.
Why is that?
No, sorry?
You don't remember anybody else's name?
No, it's just because
you don't know anybody else's name here.
She's part of the team.
Well, why do you remember her name?
I know our producer's name, I know Dom's name, don't worry about it. What I was going to say
What's our producer's name?
What?
What's our producer's name?
Ross.
Ross what?
It doesn't matter.
You don't know, do you?
Come on, our millions of listeners don't want to know.
You don't know, do you?
Just stop interrupting. What I'm saying is, Victoria told me that she was aware of the competition to become the voice of the speaking clock, but she didn't enter it because she's a professional broadcaster. Now, you've just told me the guy who's got it, Alan...
he used to present a weekly local radio jazz programme.
Radio jazz programme? Where was that?
Well, I presume it was in Dundee.
Dundee.
It's a hotbed of jazz up there, you know.
The Dundee Jazz Show with Alan... What's his name?
Stedman.
With Alan Stedman. Let's get a bit of Kenny Ball and his jazzman.
At the third stroke.
Yes, and now...
I think you're being very unkind to Alan Stedman.
This could have been Alan Stedman before he became the speaking clock.
Yeah.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the highlight of the night... Acker Bilk. What's it? The stranger on the shore.
Do you know what he said? Do you know what he said when he had to do the competition, right? He had to read from a clock, right?
Yeah.
Which you could have read from your clock in a rock, couldn't you? But he has said, I found that your eyes begin to blur a bit because of all the numbers that you're reading, but I think it went okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he had to read from a clock. How hard is that?
I don't know. I've no idea.
Mind you probably wouldn't be able to do that, would you?
But I mean, presumably it's a digital clock, because a digital clock obviously gives you the precise information that a circular clock wouldn't, would it?
As pressure goes, you know, reading from a clock, the time, it's not really that hard, is it?
No, but that's an amazing revelation.
Anyway, well done to Alan Stedman is what I'm going to say. First Scottish voice.
And I tell you what, one of these days I'm going to catch up on his Dundee jazz programme. I didn't know Dundee.
There might be a podcast you could catch up with.
Didn't know Dundee was a hotbed of jazz.
It is.
And no, Ackerbilk, Kenny Ball and his jazzmen. Who else? Who are the other famous jazz musicians?
Well, how about Stefan Grappelli?
Eh?
How about Stefan Grappelli?
Never heard of him.
You've never heard of Stefan Grappelli?
Listen, another thing which has come to my attention.
What's wrong with you?
Another thing that's come to my attention. Do you know that police forces now have decided, literally, to investigate... investigate offences against people with ginger hair who have been abused by others as a hate crime.
Yeah, because there's enough crime for them to look into.
For the first time.
And there's not enough police officers
This
to go
is
around.
a major step forward for people like me who've been ostracised all my life.
Yeah, but the problem is you don't have ginger hair. But you haven't got red hair.
I grew up with red hair.
Well, it doesn't matter. You haven't got it now. You've got silver hair.
I grew up with red hair.
You've got silver hair now. Well, if you went into any place in the world and said, I'm a ginger-haired person, they'd think you'd gone mad.
No, they wouldn't, because if you look at the hairs on my arms, they're still ginger, see?
No, they're not.
See, they are.
No, you've got a lot of freckles. You haven't got any hairs on your arms.
Well, freckles are an indication that you've been brought up with ginger hair.
You're like one of those cats that doesn't have any hair.
What?
You know those like Egyptian cats?
What are you talking about?
You know those cats that don't have any hair?
I think it's great. And I believe this campaign is backed by Mick Hucknall of Simply Red.
What's he got to do with him?
Well, he named his group after his hair colour, didn't he? Simply Red.
Yeah, but he doesn't get bullied, does he?
Well, I think he did as a kid, because he was quite a sort of elf-like little kid.
He's quite an annoying guy as well.
Yeah,
is
he? He's very successful though.
Yeah, but I mean, this is ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, the police haven't got enough to do.
Well,
what about the guy that stole my shirts? They haven't found him yet.
No, they haven't found him.
Why are they going
yet.
after, victims of, red bullying? Or
have you had your compensation money, by the way?
I haven't yet, no.
Have you been in there for it? No?
Well, I've said to them, look, I'm quite relaxed about it, but, don't think that I'm going to just go away and not actually expect to get about 300 or 400 quid from you.
That's right. You won't believe this. The first local police force to take up this opportunity to prosecute people who abuse those with red hair is Essex.
Essex?
Yes.
Well, there's nobody with red hair in Essex.
Well, what's our programme called? It's got to be Essex.
The only way is Essex.
The only way is Essex, yeah. My God, I don't know.
So exactly what sort of crimes are they looking for?
Well, it says if you take the mickey out of people with ginger hair, that now can be interpreted as a hate crime.
What, so they're going to arrest people for that?
Well, they arrest people for all sorts of other things, don't they, these days, which are ridiculous, you know. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Greater Manchester Police looked
Maybe we should check it out. Maybe we should try it.
Yeah. Here, how about this?
You and I could go somewhere and I could start insulting you on the basis that you've got red hair. And then they could arrest me and then I could say, well, he hasn't got red hair.
Yeah, well, he used to have red hair. This is an absolute true fact. Greater Manchester Police looked at an incident involving someone threatening to petrol bomb the home of a Facebook friend after calling them an anorexic ginger idiot.
Well, I think the petrol bombing's the bit that they should worry about.
Exactly,
I don't think they should worry about what he's being called.
Yeah, exactly.
How about this from Mr. Games? He says, police use the talking clock in order to check the accuracy of the time shown on the CCTV footage that they collect. Why?
I've no idea.
Why don't they just use the clock in the police station?
I've no idea.
What's wrong with them?
Do you know what Mick Hucknall once said? He said, let's play a game. Whenever you read...
If you don't know me by now.
Yes, that's a good one.
You said that.
Let's play a game. Whenever you read ginger, try replacing it with black or Asian and see how it reads. So he takes it very seriously. Yeah. Very seriously.
I think he's got a new album out or something.
I don't know. Was Simply Red named after...
You've seen the time, by the way.
The colour of his hair?
Or the fact that it will be 12:30. Don't just shut up.
Or the fact that he supports Manchester United. We'll never know.
Yeah, we will never know. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There'll be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Of course, it's Danny Kelly coming up after us, and it's the Republic of Ireland against Austria, which should be quite an interesting game.
Yep.
I've got a few tweets to read out to you. A text here, actually, from Neil, who's a Man United fan in Manchester.
Yes.
He says, please correct Porky. Mick Hucknall named Simply Red after Man United, his favourite football team. He certainly did not name it after his hair colour. I know the guy personally from my Hacienda days.
Yeah, but I did actually say that, didn't I? Towards the end of our conversation,
no, you said he called him Simply Red because of his hair colour.
And then I said, or was it because he's a rabid Manchester United fan? So thank you very much indeed for contacting us. What's the name of this guy? Neil. But I did in fact cover that option,
well, you
mate.
Didn't cover it at all.
I did cover it.
Said that he said that he.
Do you want to go back and listen?
Yes.
Right, because I'm telling you, I said, is it because of his red hair, or could it be because he's a rabid Manchester United fan? So we'll get that clip in before the end of the show.
I think you'll find that Neil listened to you and got it right.
Yeah.
Here's one from Nick, who says, so much for Porky being the man of the people, complaining about first and business class being at the front of the plane.
Yes.
Out of touch.
Well, no, I'm only thinking about saving people's lives, like worthy people's lives, if you see what I mean.
What about everybody's life?
What?
What about everybody's life?
Well, yeah, everybody's life, obviously, but,
Yeah, but you see, the trouble with you is that you think some people's lives are worth more than others, particularly rich people's.
No, I don't.
And,
I don't.
Jeff says this, Brian May has got too serious for his own good. He's spouting a lot of hot air these days.
Yeah, but I mean, you forgive him because he was part of Queen, wasn't he? And Queen was one of the greatest groups of the second half of the 20th century.
He's become a bit of a curmudgeonly old
Well,
git,
I think he's earned the right to do so. He commands the respect of millions of people, and as so, he's got a bit of a soapbox. box and he can stand on it. No problem at all for me.
Pete says this, is Porky's shirt worse than the tie he wore in that Joan Collins picture?
No, it's certainly not.
It is actually.
No, it's not.
It is almost as bad.
It's not, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's a gingham shirt. But actually, I tell you something's a bit odd. You and I have suddenly taken to buying shirts made by a guy called Pink.
Thomas Pink.
Thomas Pink.
Well, no, I haven't suddenly taken to. I've been wearing Thomas Pink shirts for years.
Well, I've never seen you one before.
Well, you don't ask me what my shirts are actually manufactured by, do you?
Well, no, but nevertheless, I started buying pink shirts, and I told you that, and then you started going and getting them. Yes, you did.
I've been wearing pink shirts for years.
I'm not sure you have.
Well, I don't care whether you're sure. I mean, you wear the most ridiculous shirts that anybody's ever seen in the history of shirts.
No, I don't.
You think Pierre Cardin was a good designer.
Well, what about that shirt you've got, which is multicoloured and looks like layer cake?
Yeah, that's a Brooks Brothers shirt.
It literally looks like a sandwich cake with 6 different colours in it.
It's a colourful
sponge cake.
It
looks
like
a sponge
shirt,
cake,
which I wear on special occasions.
It's ridiculous. Now, listen,
all your shirts are the same colour.
You know, I told you earlier that the Welsh cops were the first ones to get rid of the traditional policeman's helmet.
I'm not entirely sure if that's true.
Yeah, it is true, and replace it with a ridiculous baseball cap type thing with checks
I
around
used to
it.
I used to work in Cardiff, right? And I have never seen a baseball cap wearing police officer there.
Haven't you? Well,
when was that supposed to have happened?
Well, it has happened. Anyway, what I was going to say to you is, I'm delighted to be able to say that one great policeman who's in charge of Greater Manchester Police wants to bring back the traditional policeman's helmet, because he says what it does is it makes a policeman stand out, within the community. You see what I mean? If the policeman's in the street, the idea of that helmet was that, you could say, oh, great, here's a policeman.
Well, one of the reasons you don't see them very often is because more often than not they're now in cars, and so they can't really wear the helmet in the car, otherwise they'd have to poke the roof open.
Well, yeah, obviously. But what I'm saying is in the streets now, you don't often see them, and they're replaced. We're going to bring them back, which I think is a great thing. One of the reasons why a lot of Americans come to this country is to see things like, the British Bobby walking the beat with that sort of helmet on.
Good luck finding one.
The British telephone box, the red telephone box.
We don't use them either.
Well, in Westminster they've kept a lot of them, haven't they? For that very reason.
Most of the time the phones... I mean, when was the last time you made a phone call from a phone box?
Years. Yeah. I don't know why we have phone boxes anymore. I don't know who uses them.
Well, they all started, basically, in the West End, they're all full of those cards from, ladies of the night, for want of a better description, given this is a family show. And also, they've only got charge phones, haven't they?
Yeah, that's right.
And do you remember when they used to have those cards that you could buy?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Which I don't think they've done away with.
They must have done away with them. Now, have we told our audience that we're back tomorrow?
Well, you tell me.
Well,
you've been sitting here with me.
Have you told them?
Have we told them?
Well, we're going to tell them now.
Can you remember whether we told them?
It's 1 till 4 tomorrow, isn't it?
Yes.
The 2 mics.
Well done for remembering.
Sunday afternoon here on Talk Sport.
That's right.
Now, during the show tomorrow, the 3 hours of the show tomorrow, I will be able to explain the nightmare of being called for jury service.
That's starting Monday, isn't it?
Do you know, I actually wrote a letter to the judge.
Right.
I had to call him Your Honour.
You're going to end up... Did you have to say, Dear Your Honour? How do you do that?
No, you just address him as Your Honour.
What, so no dear?
No, dear. Your Honour.
Your Honour.
And then you leave a gap.
Were you very sedulous? You don't know what that means.
Yeah, I do. I in a way, but not overly, because I didn't want to seem to
Your
be
Honour,
grasping.
I'm so hopeful that you will grant my request.
No, it was the opposite.
Because I am one of the top people, having gone to the King's School, Chester.
No, it was the opposite. I said I very much want to do my duty as a juror.
Yeah.
However, I fear that if, I'm made aware of to other members of the people involved in the court case.
People find out who you are.
Well, I don't want to be a nuisance. I don't want to prohibit the due course of law and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
If somebody sees me at the Crown Court and then starts ringing up TalkSport to say they've seen Porky Parry, what's he up for? Is he an armed robber? Is he a burglar or something like that?
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do.
Well, unfortunately for you, all of your pleas have been completely and utterly ignored, right?
Oh, the judge sent me a note back saying...
all of your attempts to weasel out of this have completely failed.
The judge sent me a note back saying, basically stop bothering me and turn up on Monday.
God help! As soon as they clap eyes on you and listen to you, you will be you'll be disqualified as a juror.
Well,
the idea of you actually putting anything, in a judicial sense, judging it properly and not jumping to a conclusion. There's no way you can judge somebody without having, sort of prior discriminatory thoughts.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
You will look at the people in the dock and you will immediately decide whether they're guilty just because of what they're wearing.
Yeah, well, no, I won't. No, I will not. I must.
I mean, if the guy turns up in a nice Mercedes, you'll go, he must be innocent.
No. I must stress that I will have a completely open mind, as all jurors must have. I'm not prejudiced in any way against any member of society, either for or against.
Unless they're travelling in castle class.